Hello, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Express. I'm Alonzo, and I'm coasting into your living rooms. Today's topic, I wanted to speak about a college football program that's people don't realize it's had a remarkable turnaround over the past 5 to 10 years. And that team I want to speak about, as you can see, is the SMU Mustangs. They had a 5-7 record this year, but it wasn't a real indication of just how good just how far they came since that school had the first and only in the past 30 years death penalty, where they completely shut down your program for a certain uncertain amount of time. And for the SMU, it was 20 years of just awful football. It really was. I mean, when they hit them hard. You know, to give you kind of an insight on the SMU Mustangs, the last time that they was dominant, they was in the Southwest Conference. And at that time, Ron Myers was their coach. He was a great recruiter. They hired him in '79. In 1980 and '81, the SMU, they claimed 2 national titles. It wasn't recognized by AP and the coaches poll because that year, Clemson in '81 and Penn State in '82, which beat Georgia, claimed both polls. So they didn't technically recognize SMU as national championship, even though the SMU had run the table, so to speak. They was 10-1 and won their bowl in '81, and they was 11-0 and won their bowl 7-3 against Pittsburgh in '82. But they was never recognized for it, which a lot of teams sometimes they have problems with running the tables, but they're not recognized by both polls because due to strength of schedule or the votes or whatever, what have you. But SMU did do that. And Ron Myers and they had one hell of a running system. It was Craig James, who was a future NFL, Eric Dickerson, which people know that he played for the Los Angeles Rams and Hall of Fame, a Hall of Fame running back, and Craig Wagner. And they was known as the Pony Express. They ran the option, which, like I said, in Southwest Conference, running was almost fertile out there with Arkansas and all them different teams. So, but they ran an option that was just completely unstoppable. Okay, and between '80 and '84, they was 49-9-1. Okay, I mean it was just great football. But then, come 1987, it had been uncovered that the boosters and the administrators had a slush fund that they was paying these players. Most players was poor and they couldn't make ends meet, so they kind of gave them money on the table. And they never stopped it because they felt a lot of players, they would transfer or leave, or a lot of disgruntled players would start to speak out about it. But it was finally uncovered, and when it was, they got the death penalty in '87. And they hit them pretty hard. They vacated a lot of their wins. It was pretty awful for SMU. But then, they hired Forrest Gregg in '88. And at that time, Forrest Gregg was the coach. He was bigger than half his players, because a lot of them, they were just walk-ons. And people just trying to keep the program going, and they were just getting their head kicked in. It wasn't so much when they, on Saturday, would they lose, how much. They were just getting their head kicked in. And they started from scratch. And he finally came after that director, and he just left finally. They didn't really start to really win or know what winning was until they hired June Jones from Hawaii. June Jones had went out to Hawaii and turned that whole program around. When June Jones had left Hawaii, he was 76-41. It was pretty much after he had lost to Georgia in the Sugar Bowl that he decided to leave. But that wasn't based on the reason why he left. He left because while they was 76-41 and he was bringing in all this revenue, Hawaii just refused to update the stadium or the facilities to give them better practice facilities and workout facilities, and they just kept giving him promise after promise after promise, and they never fulfilled those. So he decided that he wasn't going to no longer coach at Hawaii. At first they didn't think he was going to leave. He was making $800,000 a year. Finally, when he decided to leave, they got wind that he was about to leave, then they raised it up to 1.7, which at $800,000 he was the highest paid state employee in Hawaii. But at even the 1.7, he still informed him that he was gone, because he realized that he said it will not get better here in Hawaii until I leave, and maybe they can make that promise to someone else and keep it. So that's when he left and went to SMU. Now his first year he was 1-11, but people who know June Jones know that he turned programs around. You know, he did pretty decent in Atlanta. You know, he had some bad years, but he had a couple of good years too in that, when he coached for the Atlanta Falcons. And what he actually did was that next year they was 75 and 8-4, and they won their first bowl game in like 20 years in 2010, and then they won in 2011. They tried to move them over to the Big 12, but the Big 12, they didn't embrace them, so they wound up in the Conference USA. And in 2011 and 12, they won both their games. So he was 3-1. He was 3-1 over that span. And you got to understand, SMU was founded in 1915. So for the past 100 years, they're 7-1 in bowl games. That means 15 bowls in almost 100 years. That's just a credit in itself for June Jones to come in out and revitalize that program. Now, like I said, they don't have no huge stars. It's just a collection of talent, and they work together. And they beat a lot of good teams that they weren't supposed to be beaten in these past 3 or 4 years. So we got to take our hats off to SMU and the program that was kind of rebuilt. They came back from the shadows of death, because most programs, when they get hit like that, they don't recover. You know, you have teams that get hit like that and they'll shadow themselves. Miami ain't the same team they used to be. They're still competitive and pretty decent, but they're not the Miami of the 80s. When they got hit with those sanctions and those infractions, it really sucked the life out of that program, and it does any college program. At that time, NCAA felt, you know, that this was necessary to reorganize this school, and at that time I understood that, because it was something that was just completely out of control. So, you know, in that case, NCAA, they was correct in their findings and their penalty. And like I said, with June Jones coming aboard, it was just he's done just an awesome job, and he's to be commended for that. If you take a look, like I said, they have about 3 notable people who was there. Doak Walker, which he has the Doak Walker Award, which awards the nation's top running back, which started in 1990. You also have Lamar Hunt, who used to own the Dallas Texans, which became the Kansas City Chiefs. And later on he passed away in 2006. But he was a maverick in the NFL, along with Al Davis and all them guys who made a whole lot of stuff happen and change. So Mr. Lamar Hunt will be remembered as a pioneer in the NFL. He was actually an SMU alumni. And Eric Dickerson, which everybody knows, he was a great running back with the Rams and a few other NFL teams, the Raiders, and before he was finally inducted into the Hall of Fame. And Craig James, who is a ESPN College Day analyst. You know, these was guys who you know, they have far in between superstars, but them guys, the Pony Express was just absolutely unstoppable. And after the death penalty, and they revived themselves, June Jones came in and he turned that program around, and now they're actually a decent product to look at on the field. They were not getting their head kicked in like 80 to nothing and 69 to 9, stuff like that. You know, they play a strong, solid game. So people, you ever get a chance this season to take a look at the SMU program, please do. And they deserve so much credit. You know, whether it's the coaching staff of June Jones, the administrator who came in, and the athletic director who they brought in, because he's the one who brought June Jones in. And the university as a whole, and the and the SMU community as well. And that's why I support them 100%. And I look forward to seeing them play football this year. You know, like I said, they had a down year last year, but they were still very competitive. You know, that 5-7 record is not indicative of how decent of a season they could have had. They could have easily been 8-4, 7-5. But the breaks didn't go their way, so unfortunately they wasn't. But I look forward to them kind of reloading and putting another product on the field that June Jones and the SMU University and the community can be proud of. So face off, you know, come on my Facebook and sound off on my Twitter and my website and tell me what you think about SMU revitalization and other teams that you think that should have probably got the death penalty. I'd like to hear your ideas and what you have to add to this conversation. Tell me what you think. Thank you for tuning in to my show, The Sports Express, in association with the Carter Media Group. And I look forward to talking to different issues coming down the line as we approach the football season. You all have a great and safe and wonderful 4th of July. And I look forward to talking to you next Thursday, right here on the Sports Express. Take care, people. Have a good evening.